Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the first Symbiota support group of 2024. We're excited. We did this last year where we kind of did like a year in review and looking forward to this next year. And I feel like that was really kind of fun and exciting to see what you all are up to. You guys can see what we are up to, and we can kind of just celebrate that work together. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, just like Jen did and Kathy did. It's just kind of a fun way of seeing who's in the audience. And feel free to rename yourself, including your institution affiliation or whatever you call yourself in your Zoom name. Okay, so happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day, everyone, January 15th. I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay to make some announcements.
Thanks, Katie. That was a great introduction for the year. So we just have a few announcements before we get started with today's topic. So just so you know, quite a few portals were updated over the holiday. Thank you for your patience while that was happening, and let us know if you find any more bugs. So usually updating is a good thing, but occasionally that can introduce little, things here and there. So email us if you find any issues, or you can also put those in our GitHub issue tracker. Next slide. And also just sort of like a, beginning of the year housekeeping thing. So, most people who are administrators or editors are already subscribed to Symbiota Communications. But if you know somebody who isn't, say they want to get reminders for this monthly meeting, you can go to this link and there's a way to there's like a little form you can fill out and we can sign them up or subscribe them for you. Or, you can send them that way and we can subscribe them to our communications. Can't speak this morning. Next slide. So if you're going to any conferences this year, consider taking the opportunity to spread the word about your favorite data portal at the conference. So we have some pre-made posters or like a template for that. So if you have a portal and you want to just kind of spread the word about it, we can help set you up with one of those posters, or we can send you the template, whatever you like. Email our help desk and we can give you more information about that. Shout out to Rick, who's here today. He did that for the macroalgae portal last year, which was awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. And here's just kind of like a preview of what those things look like. Related to conferences, something to keep in mind is that the Digital Data Conference has been officially announced. That's happening in Lawrence, Kansas at KU at the end of May. We will all be there, we being the hub. So if you're thinking about going in person, come find us. We're excited about this and looking forward to it. Another important announcement, so you're probably familiar with our Portal Campaign series. So we're trying to kind of think about the schedule for this upcoming year. If your portal might want a campaign, please contact us again. That's help@symbiota.org and we can chat. Especially important for portal managers. So this is what the upcoming schedule is starting to shape up to look like. We have one for ecdysis coming up. We'll also be doing campaigns for the lichen and bryophyte portals in sequence later this spring. And then the Consortium of California Herbarias portal, CCH2, we're going to be having a campaign for them kind of at the end of the summer. So the fall in particular is kind of wide open on the schedule right now. So keep that in mind as you're planning for the year. And before we get started with the topic for today, are there any other announcements out there that people would like to make to the group before we get started? Oh, Rick says, what is a campaign? Oh, in this context, a campaign is basically an event for your portal. So it's a way for the community to get together and kind of meet each other, but also a way for us to help you with some of your outstanding data issues. And then we offer training, and it's sort of like a month-long event if you're not familiar with what Symbiota portal campaigns are. Good question.
And I just put a link in the chat to kind of the overview of the portal campaigns that we have already done. And so you can get an idea of what portal campaigns usually engender. Any other announcements? Allison?
Question. It doesn't seem to let me raise my hand. Maybe that's because I'm a hand raiser. I wanted to know how big the posters are because I'm interested in getting those. And also, would you put in the chat the registration for a new subscriber link because I couldn't type fast enough?
The posters, I think, are, to answer your first question, they're not huge, but they're like kind of a standard, like maybe it's like 5 by 3 or something like that. I'd have to look in the actual document, but it's like all available in like a very editable format. So if you had to change it to be portrait or like something totally different, like we'll give you like a template file and then you can like stretch it out or change it to however you want or shrink it down. That's also happened.
Yeah, I think if you save it as a PDF, you can then just print it whatever dimensions you need to. All right, any other questions or announcements?
Yeah, could you put the subscription page in the chat? Thanks.
Oh yeah, are you on that? Lindsay's on it.
Just dropped it.
Great. All right, well then let's go ahead and start chatting about the year in review and looking forward. So 2023 was a very productive, very successful year, I think, for the whole biodiversity community. You guys are rocking it. Like this one, the stats that I'm going to display are not stuff that the Symbiota Support Hub is necessarily doing. We might be helping along the way, but you guys are ultimately doing the work. So props to you all. You're doing a great job. So to the portals that Arizona State University hosts, there have been added 3 million records to live managed collections alone. So that doesn't include snapshot collections, which are things that they manage their data in some other database and only send us a copy. Some of our really large sharers of data are just snapshots like the Smithsonian and the New York Botanical Garden and the Missouri Botanical Garden and a few of them, Florida Museum. But just live managed collections have added 3 million records to portals in this last year. So that's an amazing accomplishment. Accompanying a lot of those images or a lot of those records have been images. And so that's created 1.2 million images added to live managed collections in 2023. And as most of you know, that is a huge amount of work because you are physically taking your specimens out of your collections, imaging them, processing those images, adding them up to the portals. So huge props to you. This is kind of an overview of where the data currently are and where they're being sent. These are in Symbiota portals, again, that are hosted at Arizona State University. Lots and lots of live occurrences, lots and lots of snapshots. Again, some of our really big data sharers are doing so as a snapshot. A lot of occurrences, or you can think of them as specimen records, are being sent to GBIF. We'd like to see that go even higher because it's great to share the data even further so that more people than just people who are familiar with our Symbiota portals can be using the data for research, education, outreach, policymaking. And then a lot of our occurrences are also being sent to IDIC-Bio. So you can see this upward trend in most of these. And then it could be that we lost some snapshots or we got rid of some junk, and that would result in the downtrend for this year. But live occurrences are going up. And a lot of this work has been thanks to the hard work of several thematic collections networks. Those are funded projects from the National Science Foundation that are aiming to digitize certain sets of data. So I just wanted to give a shout out to some of the TCNs. There's the Dig-In TCN, which is doing a bunch of invertebrates. Hi, Dean. There's the Big B TCN doing a lot of bee digitization, and they're doing some fancy stuff with like forward-facing, side-facing, top-facing, measuring the intertegular distance to get a proxy for bee size. Like people are getting really intense here. It's really fun. There's the Global TCN, which has been doing tons of work digitizing lichens and bryophytes across the United States and across the globe. The specimens are from across the globe. There's the Eastern Seaboard TCN, which is doing, I think, just mollusks on the Eastern Seaboard. And one other digitization project I know of is that the California Botanical Garden is digitizing and linking their xylarium, which is exciting. This is just kind of a new type of collection that's being newly digitized. And you have specimens from the xylarium, which is the collection of wood that are being linked to the specimens that have the leaves, etc., on them. So that's really cool to be able to see multiple parts of a large creature. And by creature, I mean plant. And there's just so much more going on that isn't related to specific TCNs or specific grants. I know that a bunch of these collections have been newly added to Symbiota portals, or they're increasing their digitization and adding them to Symbiota portals. And as you can see, there's a bunch of international collections that we're able to help get into portals, mobilize their data, and that's really, really exciting. That has contributed to over 180 new collections in Symbiota portals in 2023. And collection can mean like a collection of bryophytes, a collection of lichens, and a collection of vascular plants, for example, all from the same institution going to different portals. But still, 180 of those is a lot of collections. And here's just kind of the same graphs we showed you earlier, but just with collections instead of like specimen records. So you can see that our number of collections is just going up in all cases. And a lot of those are getting published to IDBio, so super exciting. Oh, Chilla has a question about the xylarium specimens. How are the xylarium specimens associated with the herbarium specimens? They're associated using the linked resources tab they have a separate collection in CCH2, which is their Symbiota portal. And that's where they put all the xylarium specimens, so the wood chunk pictures and data. And then they link them using the linked resources tab. And Lindsay can put a link to the documentation about the linked resources tab in the chat. We're really excited that 120 collections are newly publishing to GBIF with it, which is just a huge amount of data that we're sharing internationally, and we're very excited. We we helped lead a bunch of portal campaigns in 2023 for 6 different portal communities. And again, these portal campaigns were month-long endeavors to kind of push the communities forward with any data quality issues they needed to complete, with any just like lingering issues from the TCNs that have wrapped up, or just getting people newly on board, getting new people trained. We did a lot of stuff regarding that. And we have a lot accomplished from that. So 38 collections were added as a result of portal campaigns that involved like outreach into the community, either from us or from you all. Some people would be like, hey, you know, we have this portal. What do you think about getting your data digitized, or the stuff that's digitized shared? We did a bunch of data cleaning, as I mentioned, which involved bringing a lots of new taxonomic names into the portals. So over 28,000 taxonomic names were indexed into all of the portals over the courses of the campaigns. And that meant that over 61,000 specimens were more easily searchable because they were linked to a taxonomic name in the taxonomic thesaurus. We fixed a bunch of elevation values. We fixed a bunch of basis of record values and country values and smaller numbers of a lot of other little things that are just hopefully improving the quality of the data contributed by people through Symbiota portals. And that's going to keep on growing. We have some more ideas about ways that we can help improve data quality in the future. So be looking out for that. Some exciting news about the Ecdysis portal. The Ecdysis portal is for arthropods and mostly insects, but I think it can be anything. They have like spiders and things too. And we're doing a portal campaign with them in February, and they've actually launched a steering committee for their portal that's been active in trying to get a lot of momentum forward, get all these collections talking to each other so they can discuss best practices and workflows. And so far, that's pretty exciting. So look out for news from them. And then, of course, you guys are just doing your everyday work in the portal, which is fantastic, and even more everyday work than last year, probably because we have a lot more collections too. But this is just a comparison of how many edits have been made in Symbiota portals between 2022 and 2023. So these are the edits in that year, and this is the edits only in this last year. So you go, guys. All right, and now I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay to give you some updates about what the hub has been working on.
Thanks, Katie. All right, so next slide. Okay, so here's our team, just as a reminder. This is the Symbiota Support Hub, and we have 2 new additions to our team this year. We have Logan Wilt and Mark Fisher, who are software engineers with our team. They weren't with us in 2022, they were in 2023, and I don't think they're with us at this meeting today, but if, for example, you come to Digital Data, you might get to meet them in person. So just a heads up, our team is growing, which is pretty exciting for us. We went to a number of conferences this year. Congrats to Katie, and thank you so much for doing that. She was at quite a few of them in particular. So that included several domestic meetings, but even conferences in Australia. So Katie and Ed were at Tadwig in Tasmania. Katie also went to the GBIF Governing Board meeting in Canberra, Australia. So thank you so much for representing us and the needs of our user community there. That was really awesome. And back in June, ASU hosted the Digital Data Conference for IDIC Bio. That was a big event for us. It was really exciting and went pretty well. And it was great to meet a lot of people in person there, in particular our Symbiota users. So those are a number of large events for us that happened in 2023. And of course, this kind of activity will continue into 2024 as well. There have been over 100 commits to the Symbiota docs over the past year, which is just to say that we've been continually adding to them as you've requested, documentation needs for different aspects of Symbiota. So this is something that we're constantly adding to and updating in the background as new things are developed, or we kind of fine tune the language and add more screenshots, things like that. And if there's anything in these docs that you think is missing or you'd like to contribute to, definitely let us know. So we also have a curated YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen that, definitely head over and check that out. But we do continually add to this as well. So for example, this meeting today will be recorded and put it on our YouTube channel for asynchronous viewing or reference in the future. Definitely a good resource to know about. And this is a huge accomplishment that the Hub worked on. Greg Post and Katie in particular really helped make this happen. So this was migrating images from 4 TCNs, including the California Phenology Network, CERNEC, the Northeastern Vascular Plants Network, and the Protophyte TCN. This served over 143 collections. There were over 5 million images transferred. So these were images that were uploaded using Cyverse and now have been transferred to ASU managed servers by the Hub. And so this took well over 150 hours of effort, at least half of the year to do. And it's been a great push and accomplishment to finally have this checked off of our to-do list. So thank you to the IT team in particular for helping make this happen. This was a big push this year. Katie, do you have anything else to add to this?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that in addition to replacing all the old links with new links, during the process, we did a bunch of actually like data cleaning, like a bunch of images were misaligned to different records, and we were able to fix a lot of them. And we also discovered a bunch of images that didn't have any records in their respective portals yet. So for some reason, somewhere in the workflow broke down many years ago and no one had discovered it yet. And that resulted in over 30,000 potential new records like appearing in the portals, which is pretty cool. Like some of that might just be some duplicates that needs to be cleaned up, but some of it might just be new, fresh data. So that's exciting.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. And so Some new developments have been, as you know, worked on over the last year. A big one is that we have a new portal for the USDA that's coming out, and a big part of that is making that portal in Symbiota Section 508 compliant. So that is a big push that Mark Fisher in particular has been working on from our team. We've also worked on, the dev team has, that is, worked on a tool to batch upload linked resources. So that should be rolling out fairly shortly. And
Hey, Lindsay, could I interrupt you and ask you a question?
yes.
Can you explain what 508 compliance is, and then what impact that might have, or what advantages other portals might have from all of that development work?
From my understanding, 508 compliance is to help make your portals more accessible for individuals who might need screen reader access, for example. It's something that, for example, if a federal institution wants to use Symbiota, our portals would have to be compliant with that. So that's one of the reasons why USDA went down that path. But that could potentially apply, I think, to other portals in the future. Correct me if I'm wrong, Katie.
No, that's absolutely right. It's for screen reader compliance, but also for folks who have attention issues. There's actually ways that you can design things better so that they are easier to follow if there's any sort of disability there.
And people might be familiar with that, if you're an instructor and you have to make all of your course material accessible, it's sort of like that, but for portals. And
it's
so
like captioning the entire portal.
yeah, exactly. And one advantage of that is that because the USDA is currently funding that development then can apply to all the portals. And that's a huge lift that no one community was likely to make on their own. And so it might not seem like a benefit now, but that will certainly be a benefit to everybody in the future, that they'll have an accessible portal to many more people.
Thanks.
Great. Keep going, Lindsay. Thanks.
That was awesome. Thanks for stopping me there. That's an important point, Jen. Other things that have been worked on this year. So there are new image taking workflows and tools that were developed in conjunction with the Big B TCN as well as ESB. And the last Symbiota support group meeting was hosted by Colleen Smith from Big B. So if you're interested in seeing one of those workflows in action, I do recommend going back and rewatching the Symbiota support group meeting from December, which is posted on our website. That'll give you more details about some of that work that's been going on. And there have been a number of bug fixes thanks to the dev team. So as you know, this is part of software development. Things come up. You'll email us. Thank you for doing that, letting us know when something isn't working quite right. But this is something that our dev team is working on constantly in the background to try to improve Symbiota every single day. And you can see that in our issue tracker. Thanks, Katie. So looking forward to 2024. We're going to wrap up. Do you want me to do this part, Katie, or did you want to do this section?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay, I'll keep going. So as I mentioned earlier, we had quite a bit of conference activity in 2023, and this is not going to necessarily slow down in 2024. So we will be at Digital Data in Lawrence, Kansas at the end of May. Definitely come find us. Similarly, we will be attending Botany in Grand Rapids, Michigan. That'll be in July. And then later in the year, we will also be at Spinach and Tadwig, which is going to be in Okinawa, Japan. So those are 3 conferences that we already know we're most likely going to be at. So keep that in mind if you have Symbiota related needs. We'll be at those conferences. We also have several portal campaigns planned and coming up. So Ecdysis is happening very soon. So if this is a campaign that you're interested in, we have the registration links already posted on our website. In in April and May, we'll be doing campaigns for the lichen herbaria and bryophyte herbaria portals. So keep that in mind if you're active in those portals. And then August, the campaign for CCH2 will be happening. So just to recap, that is coming up later this year. And then of course, this group will be happening every month on the first Monday. So if you have any ideas for things you'd like to see presented in this meeting, please do either email us or you can suggest topics in our GitHub discussions page. Always taking suggestions. And the recordings of previous meetings are also on that page. Coming soon, Symbiota 3.1. So this includes improved mapping features. Thank you, Logan, for working hard on that if you end up watching this recording. We'll be rolling out improvements to the occurrence editor, the geographic thesaurus, and of course, updated portal styling. So those are things to look forward to in 2024.
Yeah, the next release is going to have probably quite a few little adjustments that you'll notice. Before that happens, we're hoping to have the Symbiota support group to walk through what those are, but we'll try to keep you apprised the best we can.
And importantly, so what Katie, Greg, and I work on is funded by IDIG-Bio, but what our software developers work on is not funded by IDIG-Bio. So just a reminder there. And so new features and new tools require funding through grants or contracts. And so something we put together toward the end of last year is an explanation of like how we're sustaining Symbiota services. Please do go over to that page and take a look at some point at your leisure and read about how you can get involved if you want to start funding potential new tools or features for Symbiota. It's kind of all explained in there.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that point, particularly in this meeting, because there's tons of development that is happening. But again, that's not through the Symbiota Support Hub IDIG-Bio part. A lot of kind of the bug fixes and a little bit of API development is supported through that. But the reason you're seeing new stuff is because other grants are paying for it. So just keep that in mind. If you're like, I want this new thing, then you could write a grant, you could contract with us. You can always ask us. It's not like we're gonna, the worst we can say is no. But most of the time, the things that get prioritized are the things that have funding.
Katie, can I say something else about that point?
Go ahead.
We maintain a features wish list on our GitHub site. And so whenever any of you write to the hub and say, hey, I would love it if Symbiota could do this. You know, if we don't have active funding for it, it's really hard to devote resources toward it, but we add it to our wish list. And maintaining that wish list is really important because then when PIs of new proposals come to the hub and they say, I have this idea for this new tool that I'd like to write for development funding for, we can actually go to the GitHub site and say, oh, look at all these other people who have requested that feature. And now we're going to include that feature and maybe some of these tangential wish list items in that proposal. And then we get funding to do it all. So it's certainly worth asking for all the things you wish it could do that it might not do yet, so that we can just keep a running tally of what people are interested in and how it might serve them. That's all.
Thanks.
All good points. Thanks, Jen. So kind of to wrap up, we just wanted to remind you about some New Year housekeeping or just to-do items that are always good to remind people of at the beginning of the year. So this is a really good time to update contact information for your user account in your collection. So say you've switched institutions over the last year, you can go into your profile and update your email. Similarly, you can, if you're an administrator for your collection, you can go into your profile and edit the metadata, and that's where you would update contact information for your collection if, say, staff turnover has happened in the last year. This is a good time to update your statistics and also just sort of audit the user permissions for your collection. So maybe there's somebody who doesn't need to be an editor anymore or doesn't need to be a rare species reader or even an admin. This is the time to go in and just kind of check, especially at the beginning of the semester before you might be onboarding new individuals into your collection in particular. And importantly, this is also a really good time to set a reminder to back up your data regularly if you're not already doing that, which you can do pretty easily just through the administration control panel. So right down where Katie's pointing to, download backup data file. All you have to do is click that button and it will prompt you to download like a complete backup of your data, which we keep the data secure for you, but we always encourage people for data redundancy to back up their own data as well. So if you aren't doing that already, do that at whatever interval works best for you. If you're editing your collection more frequently, maybe you want to back up more often than you are already. If you're not editing so much, maybe you only need to do it every few months or so. So just something to think about. There's not a one size fits all solution, but just wanted to remind everybody that is an option in your portal.
Mary also makes the point that if you're an herbarium, this is a good time to go and make sure that your index herbariorum account or information is correct too, because that is what like GBIF pulls from, and even we will pull from if we need more information.
Good reminder. Thank you, Mary. So touching back on documentation and tutorials, do let us know if there's anything that you think is lacking or needed in our documentation. We can add it to our to-do list to document that for you. You can also go and upvote issues or add them in GitHub, so we can post a link for this in the chat. This kind of goes back to what Jen was saying, but the wish list items for development in future. And similarly, oh yeah, last slide was basically the same one. Anything else? Anything else anyone has anything to add?
Yeah, I was trying to show it and then GitHub wants me to do my two-factor authentication. Here we go. I'll just incognito mode. So this is what GitHub looks like. And to non-developers, myself included, it's kind of intimidating when you first look at it, but it's actually pretty easy to follow along. You can just create an account. And then in this Symbiota Docs repository is what it's called. You will just be interested probably in the issues and the discussion sections. And the discussion just acts like an old-fashioned forum where you can start new discussions, you can comment on other discussions, you can upvote discussions. And then if you go into issues, you can say new issue if you're logged in, and it will give you a little template saying, hey, can you answer these questions about this particular feature request that you have or bug that you're reporting. And it will show up on here with your name on it so that if we have any more questions, we can ask you. Or if you're like, I don't really have any specific ideas, but I'm interested in what other people have been proposing, you can go into any of these issues that have already been created. And you can, once you're logged in, there's a little like upvote sign, you can make comments on it. And then we know if other people are encountering the same, or having the same wishes or encountering the same problems. It helps us prioritize our time when we have some ability to get funding for development. Okay, well, that is all we have really for kind of our bit. Here's to a fantastic 2024. I think it's going to be very productive. We have a lot of exuberant folks doing a lot of great work, and we're happy to be a part of it. Does anyone have any questions about anything that we have talked about here? Or suggestions or recommendations for future Symbiota support group topics? We'd be happy to hear them. I think I got an email or two already this morning of people saying, hey, we should talk about this, which is fantastic.
Hey, Katie,
Mm-hmm.
this is Rick Williams.
Hi, Rick.
Hi, how's it going?
Good.
I think you briefly mentioned that there were some tutorials for Symbiota, and I missed what the URL for that was. I'm trying to redesign the herbarium website to help people use the database.
Oh, great.
So,
I just put a link in the chat. You could either do that link or just go to symbiota.org/docs. They go to the same place.
okay.
And that will take you to this page. This is just really useful for really any level of your engagement into Symbiota portals. If you're a user, so just someone who's trying to learn how to search, there's information about creating checklists, data sets, ID keys. For folks with editing permissions, you have all of the nitty-gritty about how to use geolocate, how to use the crowdsourcing tools. There's some even volunteer instructions, how to do trait scoring. And then once you get into more of the collection management side, and that's corresponds to the administrator control panel, that's where you'll go into the collection manager guide, and it'll tell you how to do data cleaning and data publishing and batch editing and things like that. So this is kind of your go-to Symbiota resource. And
Okay,
for the
perfect.
most part, there are links to the YouTube videos from these pages too.
Cool, thanks.
You're very welcome. Oh, and also this last year, we developed a new part of the guide called the Collector or Observer Guide. And this is for folks who are using a Symbiota portal to manage their observations or kind of their collections as they're making them. And then they can print labels and send you the specimens. And instead of having to type in that specimen data all over again, you can use the duplicate linking tools to just import the data directly into your collection, as long as it's in the same portal. And if it's not in the same portal, they can at least export the data for you and you can bring it in. Bob, you are muted, Bob.
Thank you. Is there any development of like large language model, chat GPT, artificial intelligence kind of tools for transferring data from image labels to the data fields in the portal?
Oh, that's a great question. I believe the DigiLeap project is working on that. And I'll have to go find a link later, but there's a group from UF and I think Colorado, and also Ed Gilbert, our lead developer, is working with them to develop some. I don't think he's doing the models, but I know that Rob's team is. So I'll try to find more information about that for you.
That would be great. It seems like a good application for that.
For sure. Yeah, it's a huge need. And I think I've heard that Harvard is working on some machine learning models too. Oh, great. Thanks. Tiana put a link to DigiLeap in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you.
Jim and Alan both asked about Leaflet, so I'll answer them real quick before I get to you, Mary. Leaflet is an open source mapping suite. And that means that we don't have to pay for it. Google Maps, actually, we have to put a credit card on to whenever someone starts a portal, or on all of our portals, they're affiliated with some sort of credit card. And if there are a certain number of hits to maps from that portal, we actually get charged. So being able to not be charged for using maps is great, and also support an open source project. So that's why we're making the switch to Leaflet. It will look pretty similar. Like I've looked at both maps and I'm like, oh, it's almost the same thing. Mary, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, it concerns the observations thing.
Mhm.
And I've heard people complain that if they put something into their personal observations, they really don't want those identifications used in maps and things because they haven't checked them yet.
Mhm.
And then I sort of looked at it this morning from some other point of view, and it is, if I'm right, it contains a mix of image-based observations and personal profile data management systems.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if these could be sorted out. I would like them to go to different places, because when you do your image-based thing, presumably you know what you're taking a photograph of, you put in the latitudes and longitudes, et cetera, which is rather different from what I've collected in this field. I think it's this, and I'll check it out later.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good question. Mary's referring to the fact that some portals have the ability for people to be kind of an observer or a specimen collector, and they put all of their data into what's called a personal observation management profile, and it's shared among a lot of different people, but they only have the access to edit their own data. And some of the data that people will put into that collection might be preliminary. However, any data that is put into a Symbiota portal is instantly public. So there's a little bit of tension there between like, well, this is going to be instantly public, but it's not like final or cleaned in my mind. We don't have any tools necessarily to pull those apart, but when someone's searching, they can select the option to not include that collection in their search. So they could map not including those. And then in the mapping tools, they also show up differently. I think the specimens show up as like circles and observations show up as triangles. So people will be able to see the difference between these vouchered records of that taxon and the observational records of that taxon. There probably could be some more clarification added to the portals that will help people make that distinction during their searching process. So that's an idea.
Katie, I'll just add to that a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, Mary, this is a classic wish list item because a lot of people have expressed that. Even collections who are managing their records, they say, this is a dirty data set and it was a class collection, let's say. I don't really want these records to be public, but I do want to use all the features of the portal. And so like, it wouldn't surprise me if that functionality was built in the future. And it comes from a deep philosophical approach that's been with Symbiota since its beginning, which is that all curators and data managers want the data to be perfect. And our tendency is to not put the data out there until it's perfect, but it will never get perfect. And so what we really want is that data to be out there. And then you let everybody else in the portal help you make that data perfect. You know, that's been the philosophical design associated with that. But there are certainly some circumstances, and probably collector management is one of those examples of where you, you just decide when you make it public and when you don't.
Actually,
But that would require some serious development. Yeah.
Well, this is something that's a problem then, because I'm hitting it from the teaching point of view. I want people to learn to use this, and I don't want to be told by a collection, well, we can't do that because we don't have a staff member who knows Symbiota. I work mostly outside the United States nowadays. And that's a reaction I get. We can't do it because we do not have the money to hire somebody who will do this. And I think that one of the things that came across as this developed was that students need to learn it early on. And we all know that a lot of our students will go into other fields and never use it again. And I would like to be able to delete those records, etc. And it's not that they're bad. It's just that we'll probably never actually have a specimen in the collection because we won't do it.
And actually, we have tried to work around that. And Lindsay and Katie can comment on it more of our practice portals and using the practice portals for exactly what you're talking about. But I'll let Katie and Lindsay fill in because I'm not sure what the state of those are.
Yeah, the current state is that we have a sample portal and a sandbox. The sample portal is for introducing folks to how Symbiota portals function. It's currently kind of being built out to have as much data as will be useful for the users. And in the future, that's going to refresh, I think, every night. Like the database is going to be wiped clean to how it was in the very beginning of the day. So there's like these data sets that are in there already, and people can fiddle with them and break them and whatever, but it would all get wiped and replaced the next day. And then there's a sandbox portal, which is mostly used by the developers. It's very much like a no warranties given. You can edit your data here and make labels, but it might all get trashed tomorrow because of a developer thing that happened. So there's one that's like just for trying stuff out. And then there's one for like, it's not very public and it's not very clean. We're just trying things out with it, which has been used by people in the past to introduce students to, or use students, or use for students to put in their collection data.
All right.
I admit it's not the best solution.
Yeah.
Well, since I'm on the teaching thing, and again, not working in the United States, I mean, one of the things is realized we've got an awful lot of resources available to us in terms of people, and they're close by, and the internet works, and the telephone works, et cetera, et cetera. That beginning of the semester, when you're telling them about learning terminology, all those 1,000 million names that they have to learn for describing features, et cetera, it'd be nice if you'd say, don't worry about the name. I want you to make 5 excellent specimens of leaves and describe them, and use that as a way to work them into the Symbiota data form, but I think that's a separate issue that probably most people don't encounter. It's, it's partly helping them learn the vocabulary and learning to use it.
Definitely. Yeah. Other comments or questions? All right, well, I'm going to put our email address into the chat just once more, as you come up with ideas for Symbiota support group topics, or you have questions, you know that we're just on the other side of that email. One of us will answer you, and we look forward to hearing from you. Have a wonderful new year and wonderful rest of your holiday. Looking forward to 2024 with you all.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.